We're not politically correct, we just have common sense.
Unscripted, unfiltered, unfaltering. Show of Support's Hunt for Heroes offers tributes and true stories of remarkable courage.
That these terrorists could come in your bedroom and kill you, your wife, and your kids. And that's what these men are fighting to protect us from, these murdering idiots. And they're taking them out so that we don't have to deal with them over here.
Show of Support started it all, just after the shock and awe bound the nation together. Now, years of footage portraying wounded veterans, deer stands, and standing ovations. Hunt for Heroes, that started as one man's way to say thanks, is now a series that many say is way overdue.
This is something I'll never forget for the rest of my life.
It's just a raw emotion.
It's been like a dream. It really has.
We still have 40,000 injured troops. It's going to take a while to get around all of them, but there's no quitting. It'll never stop as long as I'm breathing.
I don't know, 100 yards, maybe a tad more.
100 yards, that's perfect.
Every vet that comes back from a war zone deserves something like this.
There's my private moment when they start showing up that first morning with their first deer. It's not a public event, it's just, we're in deer camp. It's just guys, just us guys.
Army Sgt Kyle Kelly just can't seem to get over the thought of his first whitetail buck in years. But it's just one of a collection of unbelievable memories on this annual hunt called Show of Support, Hunt for Heroes.
Our next warrior is Sgt Kyle Kelly. Kyle is not married. Hometown is Marshall, Texas.
You know, there's like 2,000 or 3,000 people there. That was incredible, just amazing, and thankful for the community and everybody else to come out and show support the way they have. Nobody comes back from a combat zone, you know, without being a casualty.
It's a deer hunt that first starts with a huge banquet to honor those American heroes who have just returned from combat. Jerry Johnston started this 8 years ago in Midland, Texas, and it's already grown beyond his wildest imagination. It's Terry's way of rubbing elbows with his heroes and hearing their stories. Stories people like Kyle Kelly would like to forget.
Most of the guys that we were fighting, you know, and you ask what I would call them, you know, extremists, murderers, cowards. Every one of them.
Riding in a convoy in Iraq, a bomb blast ripped through Kyle's armored vehicle.
I remember the blast vividly. I felt the truck jerk. You know, we'd hit multiple IEDs. I couldn't see. I was like, that's it, you know? And I was like, this is how I'm gonna go. I didn't feel anything. I was in shock immediately. They drugged me back through the truck and then out the hatch, and then we had a Bradley that pulled up to the back of the Buffalo and lowered its ramp, and then they scooted me in the Bradley. You know, the Black Hawk was already on the ground, and I could hear it. You know, I just see the sky, and I could see the shoulders of the guys that were carrying the stretcher to the bird. It felt surreal, like, you know, because I didn't know what was going on. Probably a week after that, because I woke up, you know, in a hospital room, and I had, you know, tubes and stuff coming out of my head, and I yelled for the nurse. She was asking me questions that I should know, and I was like, no, I don't know. And the nurse asked me if I want to call anybody. And I was like, yeah, you know, I'm gonna call my wife. And like, she just looked at me like I was crazy.
The next warrior is Sgt Jerry Johnston.
Tonight, safely back in the land he fought for, between surgeries and painful rehab, Kyle reluctantly accepts something called West Texas gratitude. 25 heroes are the celebrities on this night in November, and it all starts the minute they get off the plane.
When we got into Midland, I didn't expect all the grandeur and festivities and all that to start off immediately. It was amazing. You know, we go down the escalator and there's this flag line of people out there shaking our hands and thank you and this, that, and the other, and then we go outside and there's more.
To the 25 of you here tonight, we say a very special thank you in our own way, our West Texas way.
What started out as Terry taking two guys hunting now seems to have taken on a life of its own.
This is the 8th year of honoring America's finest. I never intended to do this in public, and I like being hidden from the crowd. And you know better than anybody, I didn't want you filming the first hunt. I didn't want to do this in public. I'm on that side of the stage on purpose, and I'm blocked by those flags and that ramp on purpose. I want my 1 minute with those guys. It's not about me, it never has been about me. It's about 25 men that night. Midland's middle America. Midland's what America used to be about. We know how things ought to be. And this is what ought to be.
And I got to tell you, it's wonderful to come to a community where people are waving the flag and cheering instead of stomping on it, burning on it, and rioting.
These guys are such strong guys. They know how to deal with it. They don't want their injuries to get in their way of living the rest of their life.
8 years of one man sharing his passion for the outdoors with warriors returning from combat. Hunting, it seems, is all Terry had to offer. And when the folks in West Texas found out, they opened their hearts to the heroes.
The passion hasn't subsided, it never will subside. The pieces, there's getting to be so many pieces to it, it's getting overwhelming even to me. It's a good thing. I mean, they deserve it, but there's lots of nuts and bolts to this thing.
It was overwhelming, you know, not just me, it's made me and some of these other guys tear up. I don't know anywhere where you could come and the amount of support in the community and things like that, and just the good-hearted people would come out like this, nowhere. And I think Terry knows that.
We have to go deer hunting, and we need a couple of days alone to do that.
Kyle Kelly goes after his first whitetail buck in years as Hunt for Heroes continues. Stay with us.
The colors red, white, and blue, a flag that waves in the wind. They honor a nation that has honored you. And we, with all that we have, give gratitude and thankfulness for these men and women who we honor tonight. God bless them, and God bless America. Amen.
There's so many of these little things that make this memorable, emotional, happy. There's so much that comes out of this that you can't plan for and no one could ever expect.
At the giant show of support banquet in Midland, Texas, a crowd is held spellbound by the stories and the sheer determination of 25 wounded fighting men. But it's also a show of support for wives of these heroes, something Terry decided had to be done.
I want the wives to know their role is as important as their husbands. They got as difficult a job on a daily basis with the added stress that their loved one may be in harm's way. We just want to give them a couple of days relief. We really want the wife to have a couple of days off. We want to just let her be a lady. Things don't reward her, but we can show her the respect and the honor that they deserve, and hopefully that rewards her for what she's had to go through in dealing with a husband who's rehabbing and having difficulties, and even though they're injured, a lot of them you can see the injuries, a lot of them you don't see the injuries. And these wives have to deal with that, and they deal with it bravely.
When their warrior goes off to war, they stay at home and keep the home fires burning.
Our next warrior is Sgt Kyle Kelly.
When Kyle Kelly's name is announced, he crosses the stage alone. It seems his marriage was a casualty of that war in Iraq. Now, months after their breakup, this brave soldier thinks back on his time in the hospital and has only tender words and praise for the woman he eventually lost.
My wife, she never left my room, ever. My mom actually had to make her leave, you know, to go get some rest and actually get out, you know, and see the outside world for a minute. She wouldn't, Savannah wouldn't leave my side.
His awards include the Purple Heart, 3 Army Commendation Medals, the Good Conduct Medal, the 2 National...
In his mind, alone on stage, Kyle thinks about the one person who really should be honored here tonight.
Only. I felt guilty, you know. I think a lot of these wives have gone through more in a different way than we have. And I felt guilty. I thought if anybody should be standing up there receiving, you know, those kind of honors, you know, it should have been her. Or at least she should have been up there with me. I don't think it's fair that it was just me, because it took both of us, mostly her, to get me to where I am today. I mean, they're like our angels, and they 100% support us, and that's what they tell themselves. Okay, he's going to get better. He's going to get better. These issues, they're going to get dealt with. And I was too freaking stubborn and prideful to deal with them.
Terry's wife, Paula, handles the wives program. When the heroes leave for their hunt, Paula and the entire city of Midland spoil the ladies for a whole weekend. As it turns out, Terry and Paula were married just last year.
That's probably the best thing that ever happened in my life is, number one, meeting her because she created an unbelievable program for the wives, and then having her be a part of my life and understanding what I'm doing.
The banquet is over, the tours and the speeches, and with heads full of memories, the heroes leave for their hunt. Only thing is, word has gotten out along this 2-hour drive across West Texas.
The support from the community, you know, Midland, San Angelo, every town in between that we stopped at, and the kids were out at school, you know, which is, you know, this entire, you know, West Texas area, that support is therapeutic as well. It really kind of shows us that, okay, you know what, I wasn't just out there, you know, running and gunning and bleeding and hurting for nothing. You know, I was out there for these people, and they know it, and they show it.
We started just leaving Midland and coming to the ranch, and then one little town heard we were coming through and called and said, hey, our kids want to step out and wave as you go by. Would you please make a little 1-block detour? And so we started with one town. The next town heard about it, and now we stopped through 4 little communities and detour and let the school kids come out and wave their flags and their signs and give these guys letters to read while we're here at camp. By the time we get to the ranch, these guys know beyond a shadow of a doubt that this part of the world is proud of them.
Finally, they're off the pavement and in the pasture, here on the Rocking Chair Ranch. A tent camp is set up and the camo is stacked in neat piles. Kyle Kelly connects with his first whitetail buck in years when Hunt for Heroes continues. Stay with us.
When I actually got out into the blind, you know, for the most part, it felt just like a regular hunt. The big difference was some guy had a camera in my face, which it obviously, you know, you don't go on a hunt back home, and you know that's right there. But no, it's perfect. The cloud cover was just right. The breeze was just right.
The images of the last few days are swirling around in Sgt Kyle Kelly's mind.
You guys are amazing.
Finally, he's on the second day of his hunt, and guide Tracy Fincher has brought Kyle to a long power line right-of-way here on the Rocking Chair Ranch near San Angelo, Texas.
So we were sitting in the blind, and that first deer finally came out. I was like, okay, you know, this is, you know, this may turn out to be something.
As time goes by, more deer filter in from the mesquites and cedars. At this moment, 25 heroes are scattered out through this area, each feeling the same thing Kyle feels right now. Anxious for what could step out here in the middle of the whitetail rut. Terry Johnston is somewhere else on the ranch guiding a hunter, and Tracy, a San Angelo, Texas police officer, donates his time for the Show of Support hunt for heroes. What's amazing is, after the time he spent in West Texas, Kyle Kelly has decided he wants to live here. Never mind that the economy is booming in this right-to-work state. They have a saying in the flat, wide-open West Texas that people are its mountains. But they have another saying here as well, that where there's does, there's bucks. And Tracy spots a nice buck working his way through the mesquites.
He was coming from the opposite side of the clearing, you know, walking in toward us. He's like, look at that guy. And I was like, okay. I'd seen that little 7-point come out, and I'd seen these smaller bucks, and it just looked like they kept getting bigger. And I was like, okay, so this is, you know, now it's starting to get kind of exciting. You know, I was like, all right, well, I brought my rifle up, and Tracy's like, yeah, you want him, don't you? And I was like, yeah, I'm gonna take him. You know, we're looking out there, and I'm like, man, there's like 12 deer out here. You know, I think there was probably, it was like 6 or 7 doe, and you know, a few small bucks. You know, and I'm looking at him, and if there wasn't a deer in front of him, there was one behind him. You know, and it took a lot of patience to just, you know, and if there was no deer around him, he was moving from one point to another. Kind of started getting irritating. I was like, man, you know, because this one deer would move away, either he would move in front or behind another one, or one would move in front of behind him. And it was almost like it was intentional, like using cover. Finally, it cleared up. Finally, they moved out of the way. He was clear in front of him, he was clear behind him, and I took the shot.
He's shot through and through. He won't last long.
I knew I'd hit him. I saw him pop up and kind of kick a little bit. Initially, there was no outside evidence that the round had actually hit him. He started running back towards the blind, and as soon as he turned, because I hit him on the left side of his body, and when he turned around to run back into the brush behind the blind, you could see the exit wound on the other side. So yeah, I knew that he was hit, and where he was hit, you know, I kind of jerked when I squeezed the trigger.
You got him. Good shot.
I waited a couple minutes to catch my breath, and then and Tracy's like, yeah, you know, I step out of the blind.
The buck is hit hard, and Tracy leads Kyle to the last place they saw the buck, at the edge of a wall of cedars.
We come out of the blind, and as we got closer toward the actual part of the brush that he'd actually entered, we stopped for a second, and I could hear him grunting. You know, I knew then that he was down and he wasn't that far away from us, but he was still alive. And then Tracy told me, he's like, look, if he pops up, you know, just be ready to fire. It's like, turn your scope all the way down. That way you can acquire the target pretty quick and lay him down before he gets too far. As we were walking further and further into the brush, you know, we picked up the blood trail and could still hear the guy wheezing. We walked up, and we could tell where we stopped that he was somewhere really close. He was within, you know, 20 or 30 feet of us. But we couldn't see him. We could hear him, we just couldn't see him. And, you know, with all the brush, it would have been kind of hard to get in there close enough and quick enough to be able to get a shot on him before he got too far away. So we marched around, you know, kind of to the left of him and followed the blood. Tracy actually spotted me, and he was only like probably 12 or 15 feet away from us.
See if he's breathing at all. He's up there. Be ready to pop him.
He was a goner. You know, it was like a sigh of relief. All right, man, this is done. And then we checked him out. But I don't care how many times you do it. It's always an awesome experience, you know, just to be able to see that guy. It's pretty neat. cool the way this is designed. Hunt's like right at the end. We had all this stuff going on, you know, and that was the last big thing. That was the cherry on the cake.
Straight out that way.
The Hunt for Heroes. It's evolved from a humble gesture of one man, Terry Johnston, into an 8-year and still going annual tradition.
And I got to tell you, it's wonderful to come to a community where people are waving the flag and cheering instead of stomping on it, burning on it, and rioting.
This organization, everything they've done for us, I know it took a support from a lot of people, the community, a lot of money to make all this happen. I'm very honored to be out here and be a part of this. I'm very appreciative and thankful. Other than that, I'm sure that when I get home, the first thing people are gonna ask me is dude, why are you glowing? What are you so happy about? And it'll be this. There's nothing I've experienced before, and I don't think there's anything I'm gonna experience after this for the rest of my life that's gonna make me feel as proud and honored and thankful. I mean, it's been like a dream. It really has. I had to ask Terry last night. I was like, man, what day is it? I mean, because I didn't know. I was just like, man, where are we at? What day is it? What is is this real? You know, I've spent the better part of the last 3 years pretty pissed off, or angry, really for no reason. Just walked around with a scowl on my face. I don't think since I've been out here that I've quit smiling.
Midland's middle America. Midland's what America used to be about. We know how things ought to be, and this is what ought to be. What we're doing for these men and their lives ought to be done.
This has been an experience I'll never, ever forget. I will carry with me for the rest of my life.